Hi, everyone. I am ecstatic to have my friend and personal chef, Roxanne Lapuyade, here with me today to talk about what it's like to be a personal chef and her journey with emotional eating. Thanks for being on, Roxanne.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's fun.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And you said this is your first time being interviewed on video, so I'm really happy to be your first here.
Yeah, this is great.
I'm really excited to talk to you because this is really different than the types of people I typically interview or content that I put out for my viewers. Having a personal chef, not someone who specifically works with eating disorders, but the passion around the food and the way that you help people to be able to eat in your own way. And so I thought that was so cool. So I really want to start with you introducing, what you do, your background, and how you became a personal chef and your passion for it.
I'd love to share. Um, my interest in food started when I was really young. I had a very food centric family. My dad owned a bakery when I was growing up. My grandfather had a French restaurant. Um, and so food was important. And as I was getting into my teens, I got really into going to the farmer's market and figuring out how to cook um, for myself. Going to school, I would like look through all these cookbooks and pick one recipe and make that so that I had meals for the week. And so it just became kind of an important part of my week and how I took care of myself. Um, Then I moved here and I started working at the Natural Foods Co-op. And at the co-op was really cool. I became the produce manager and I brought in a lot of local produce. They already had a lot of
Mm.
produce, local produce. But I was going to the farmers market and incorporating the farmers that I loved buying from. And then I was able to share that with my community, which was really cool because I could tell people where things were grown, or I could bring in something really unusual. Like I brought in water chestnuts,
Mm.
fresh water chestnuts, which I had never seen before.
Yeah, I don't
They
think
were
I've ever seen
grown,
fresh ones.
they were grown in a bog in Northern California, certified organic, and they were like sweet, crunchy jicama almost,
Oh, wow.
but I had never seen them other than in a can. And so there were a lot of fun things, and I got to share that with customers coming in asking me, what's new, how to use things. It was I didn't needed to be able to tell people like this is what you do with the parsnip. You should try
Mhm.
it, take it home and give it a shot. And so it was encouraging people to eat more vegetables. It was really fun. And I did that for quite a few years. And then from the co op and that great community, I moved on into working in a restaurant. The food theme, was really pretty much solidified for me. I was like, okay, next I'm going to work in a kitchen. I got a job at a restaurant in Paso and eventually became the sous chef there. And I learned a lot about food in a different way. This
Wow.
way it's more of being in a commercial kitchen, preparing food on a large scale, but still the theme of locally sourced seasonal produce incorporated throughout the menu. And then I had an opportunity to open my own cafe after being at that restaurant for about a year and a half. And so I moved into that and I had Roxanne's Cafe for 6 years.
Wow.
And it was in the courtyard of a yoga studio here in San Luis Obispo.
Oh, yeah, I
Uh,
know of that.
yeah,
That
it's
was you. That's so
dog
cool.
yoga. Yeah. And that was a labor of love. I mean,
Great.
I served very high quality food. I was at the farmer's market every week. Um, and it was just, I really established my style during that time because I had all these tools, working for a chef before. And I sort of like, I established my style. It was very vegetable centric, very seasonal. and then closed the cafe after 6 years. And then I was hired by another restaurant in town. They wanted to open a healthy, like breakfast lunch spot. And they sought me out because of my style. And they really wanted me to be able to just kind of run with that and keep going with what I was doing. So, worked for them for a year. And once that project was, kind of floating on its own, I was able to take the next step, which was do personal chef, like bring it out of the restaurant and into the kitchen, and homes, and try to, impact people with food in a new way. And so that's kind of a brief history.
Wow. I had no idea you had worked in all those different places. That's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, they each one added such an important piece to my understanding and ability, and now it's neat because I not only cook for my clients at their homes, which is, the foundation of my business and brand, but I also teach classes and do events, which, I mean, I was thinking about the events that I've done. It's like a classical guitar concert, all the way to, a grand opening for a business, to fun parties at home, or a birthday party class where we make the, birthday girl's favorite dishes. And,
Oh, cool.
so it's like, the spectrum is really broad, and usually fun, festive activities, which I love being a part of.
Oh, that's so neat. Yeah, you get to be a part of everyone's like happy days.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, maybe I should go into a different business. I always get people like when they're really down.
But see, when you get to have that positive influence
Yes,
and
I
see the
am not.
turnaround and yeah, that's
I am not
always
a chef. No one wants me cooking for them. Not on a grand scale. I could do a meal here or there, but it's not going to be pretty. Uh, so that's why there are people like you.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So that is such a journey, and it all definitely built on each other to get you to this place.
Truly.
What about being a personal chef now, working in people's homes or doing, smaller parties and events than like the big restaurant kind of thing? What about
Mhm.
that do you love? Because you just light up when you talk about it.
Well, it's really cool to cook for people in their homes. I see, cats and dogs, tortoises, herb gardens, lemon trees that I get to go out and pick from when I need. So everybody's got their own thing. There's little kids that when they walk in the door, they're like, Roxanne's here! And she
Oh,
come running in to give me a little hug around my knees, I
aw.
mean, your people are actually inviting me into their homes. And then the work that I'm doing is allowing them time with their family or whatever is important in their lives.
Mhm.
Um, they have the knowledge that they're eating well. And, um, it's such a big piece of the picture, having nourishing food,
Mhm.
that it feels so good. And then the exchange of being in their home and kind of like, getting to share little moments. I mean, I'm only
Yeah.
there maybe for a few hours a week, but we kind of get into a groove together,
Yeah.
and you share moments. And all of that is really rewarding for me too.
Cool.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that you typically send a grocery list to the family ahead of time and they purchase the foods and then you come in and cook with that. And my initial thought was like, oh, that still seems like a lot of work for them, but it really involves them in the process so they get to see where their food is coming from as well.
Absolutely. I have I have some customers that really enjoy going to the farmer's market, so I make sure to get it out before that market so that they
Mhm.
can, go get their produce there. The other thing for me is I love grocery shopping. I mean, it's one of those things where, it's like picking the produce, figuring out what I'm going to make, interacting with people while I'm there. And I feel like maybe it's my history of being at the co-op where there was so much community. I don't want to take my clients out of their community. I want them to
Okay.
still be connected in some way to the food. So, like, I'll plan the menu and I write the shopping list, but they're going to be doing the shopping just so that they're still connected to the process. And, of course, I have clients that someone just had a surgery. I'm like, I will do the shopping for you. Do not worry about that. There's
Mhm.
times, of course, but as a general practice, I really like having that part of it for them.
So, can you tell us a little bit about what a day in the life of a personal chef is?
I can tell you about the day in the life of this
I'm
personal chef.
sure they're all very different, just like my days are all very different, but
Yeah.
what would be
Well,
kind of a typical day or a day when you're cooking for people?
um, my day definitely starts with my core routines and taking care of myself.
I love that.
Cooking for people is, you give in
Yes.
that. And so my day starts with, my yoga practice, my journaling, and things like that that keep me balanced and in a really good place. Then, of course, like I said, I arrive at their homes to kind of get the lay of the land and how everybody's doing for the day. And, you know, um, and then from there, I get into cooking. And usually, when I have several things I'm getting ready for or ready to make, I like having an idea of when things get cooked, like the longer cook times, soups and stews get started first, moving into like the shorter cook times, roasting vegetables and um, maybe making pasta or sauce. And then at the end, I do all of my cold preparations, pickled veggies, salad dressings, roasted nuts, those kinds of
Oh,
things. So
wow.
I get into it, which is really fun. I have lots of things going at once. I think the commercial kitchen restaurant helped me with my multitasking. Um, and then, I really try to base the menu on what's seasonal, and I'll take a look at the weather and check out like, oh, next week's going to be rainy, or, so that the food matches what you might be craving, kind of matching people's cravings. And so after going through all of that and all of the prep, the best part is walking away when I just like know I've left my clients. I'm like, oh, that all tastes so good. I'm so excited for them to eat it throughout the week. And then usually it's on to the next client I fit into a day, and it's a really fulfilling process for me.
So cool. I have a couple of questions within that too.
Cool.
So I love, I didn't even think about the fact that you take into account the weather. Like there's so much pre-planning with
Yeah,
that. That's crazy.
absolutely.
Um, so the questions actually, are you like tasting all of the foods as you go?
Yes, for
Okay.
sure. And absolutely. And even like, for example, last week I made a shepherd's pie. So for this client, it was like a lentil shepherd's pie. So it's like the veggies and the lentils all cooked and seasoned with like a little bit of a tomatoey broth in there, and then mashed potatoes. Well, for me to do my due diligence, those are going to get cooked together.
Hmm.
Get a clean spoon, put a little of each on there to taste them together, because sometimes something will be a little salty, something then
Yeah.
maybe the potatoes aren't as salty. Do they balance out to a perfect salt? Do they balance through the flavors work together? So I'm certainly dipping and testing as I go because I want the food, honestly, to just blow my clients away.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking a lot of my clients, this would not be the ideal job for them because they'd be so freaked out about having to taste everything. But like that
The
would be a fun
problem
part of the job.
It is a fun part of the job, and, the problem for me is that because I'm eating just, like, these little bits, I don't ever get that hunger, trigger to
Hmm.
let me know, like, "You actually haven't had a meal yet," you know? So I have to create space within my day, like, usually between clients, I have at least an hour, and to me, that's like, go home and eat a real meal because otherwise I could just spend my whole day on little tasters and
Yeah.
not have actually eaten anything, and by the end of the day, I'm not doing
Yeah.
well.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that
Yeah,
up. That's really good
it's
to know.
important. Mhm.
'Cause yeah, that
Yeah.
is like you said, it's so hard when you're not getting those, accurate hunger and fullness signals
Mhm.
because of the grazing all day long.
Yes,
Um,
yes, and it's not enough grazing to carry me, and give me the
mhm.
nutrition that I need, so, yeah, I have to create time in my day
Awesome.
for
Yeah, I'm
it, yeah.
so glad you said that. Okay, so my other question with all that was, when you get a new client, before you go in and actually cook for them, are you like checking out their kitchen and what they have available? Do you ever get people that like don't have a stove or I don't know, something like that?
I actually haven't had that. I definitely get together for a consultation where we talk about, their preferences, what their dietary goals are. I don't really have any clients who have um, really strict diets. I have like, oh, we try not to eat too many carbs and we don't want to eat red meat at home and I don't like fish, so it's more of those kinds of things. And then um, most people have pretty well equipped kitchens. I do like to ask, like, do you have a blender, Cuisinart, those kinds of tools that I know I may need. But yeah, for the most part, it's just kind of figuring out like what their comfort food is and what gets them like, are they a salty or sweet person? And because it's like I can lay out menus all day, but there's like certain types of food that speak to everybody. And those are the types of food that I want to like um discover and then tweak a little bit, if
Yeah.
possible or if needed. And so that they kind of fall in love with this like new way of having it. And
Oh, that's good.
that's fun for me.
Yeah. I think, yeah, you're in such a wonderful position to get people trying new things that they wouldn't have thought of, like water
Mhm.
chestnuts or something,
Exactly.
and different spices and all that kind of fun stuff. That's
Yeah. And what's so cool is all of those things add so many health benefits to the food. And so it's like, it feels so good to do because like even encouraging adding spices and new vegetables and stuff, like it's good for you. So
mhm.
good. So perfect.
And I was also, it just came into my mind the idea like if you have a really severe food allergy, having a chef come in and cook in your own home where you know everything is not contaminated would be really smart.
Yes.
Do you
Yes.
get people with food allergies frequently?
Um,
Or do you get them, I
I
guess?
yeah, I actually haven't. I had a client that he's vegan, and when I first started working for him, he was thinking he was allergic to oil,
Hmm,
which
that doesn't make sense.
everything. And it's like the beginning of like extracting flavor and it adds like
Yeah.
mouthfeel. And I was like, how am I going to cook without oil? And
Yeah.
so I did a lot of research and sauteing with broth instead of oil. And, there were ways. And we've slowly incorporated it back in. But I
Good.
haven't had, aside from that really unique one, not much food allergy with my clients.
Or what
I
about
only
like
have so much room in my schedule for
yeah.
clients, because usually I cook for the same ones each week.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was also curious. I mean, we're in a fairly homogenous community, but like any like kosher, halal, or anything like very specific like that?
No, no, I am not very exciting in that way. I mean, mostly it's like, um, busy, either I have a range, I have kind of young families that are really busy, both parents work,
Hmm.
and they have, maybe kids under 5. And that's like a really fun environment and different need
Hmm.
than, I have a couple women who are in their 60s and they're single, and they work a lot still, and they're like, if I don't have food made for me, I'm just gonna like open something frozen and
Hmm.
call it a day. Like, I just don't have the energy or motivation to make more
Yeah.
than,
Yeah.
which is completely understandable. And so, and one of those clients, I just love hearing her. She's like, I just feel so taken care of when you
Oh.
come, and her appreciation and her perspective on my service that I offer, it warms my heart,
Oh
because
yeah.
that's what I hope people get from it.
Such
Yeah.
self-care. It's wonderful.
Yeah. And cooking is an act of love. It's an act of love, for the people that you cook for, and for, like, I come home and I cook for myself, and I know that it is going to ripple through the rest of my life in a
Mm.
positive way by me taking the time and the attention to create a good meal. And it's something that's, um just been a part of our history, food. It's across cultures, across everything. Like, you take an onion to a cutting board with your knife, and you're like, how many people over how many years have started with aromatics to like make food, to gather people, to feed ourselves, like, and then you put it in the pan and you get the sizzle and the smell, and the whole experience of
Mhm.
cooking can be made really fun and full by taking those small actions and making going a little deeper with them.
Yeah, very
um
mindful.
yeah, yeah, and that is just, one of my favorite parts of cooking. And I get there when I'm like at home, kind of relaxed. I try, of course, to cook it, and have a lot going at once for my clients in the kitchens, and being cognizant of time. But when I'm home and I've got my music on, and I can just like, it's like,
Mhm.
yes, this is so fulfilling to me.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I was going to ask, like, are you so burnt out at the end of the day you don't want to cook for yourself? But apparently not.
And sometimes there are, absolutely. And so sometimes when I don't feel like cooking for myself, I will invite a friend over, because cooking for others gets me excited. So if I can get a friend to come over, and usually it's not hard to entice somebody over with
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
So that's a way that I do it. And then, if I know I have those back-to-back cooking days and I need a lunch in between, and I know like I have to have
Yeah.
something easy, quick, but fulfilling, I'll just, okay, you got to just one foot in front of the other, make it. I start enjoying, I try to make
Mhm.
it as fun of an experience as possible, so that you get into it. You got to, if you don't have energy, at least, turn on the music, call a friend, whatever, to like kind of get yourself in the groove, and set yourself up to succeed, for me the next day, and have a lunch, and then, and for a few days even. It's, so sometimes I have trouble with it,
Yeah.
but I've been really trying.
Cool. So you are doing a little meal prepping for yourself when you know you're going to be busy.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I definitely, I just make sure I have leftovers or
Yeah.
roasted veggies in the refrigerator that I can just I put cottage cheese on roasted vegetables. It's like the
Yeah,
quickest, easy, but it's so tasty. And so if I have those two things, I know I can at least like do that and I'll be
smart. I can think of so many people that would love to hire you.
Well,
That's great.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm available. I was looking at my like New Year calendar, like how many are my ideal clients? How many would I like for the week? And with the new
Yeah.
year and the new decade, kind of like, what do I want? And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I'm gonna have a couple availabilities for
Cool.
the new year.
Well, definitely check the links in the description below this video if you're interested and you're a Slocal. I'll make sure to have Roxanne's contact information so you can maybe be one of those people on her New Year's list.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I know. Talking
I
to my
also
oh, go ahead.
have. I really want to share this with a bigger audience other than just the people who are in my direct community. And I love the idea of like the fundamentals of cooking and learning how to cook without a recipe so that you can look in your fridge and be like, I have a cabbage and a pepper and an onion. Like, what can I do with this? And how can I make it taste good?
Yeah.
So I plan on working on a website, blog, getting up, and then kind of like a membership program to offer more educational content and making like the meal prepping and all of that easier. So
Fantastic.
with all that uh, info down there, if anybody's interested, you can
Yeah,
get in touch about all of that too, because I really do want it to reach a bigger audience.
that's fantastic. I think that's so needed. I was talking to my mom before this, and she would be one of your ideal clients, but she lives in Minnesota. She's like, "Oh, you're talking to a personal chef. I want that so bad." So,
A
yeah,
lot of people do, and I think that the myth is that people can't afford a personal chef,
hmm
which I understand that, and but when the cost analysis is actually done,
hmm
and you look at like how much you spend on food or how much you spend eating out and the time it takes and all of that, and you balance that with there's a lot less food waste. You don't have to
hmm
take any time to think about what you're going to eat, what you're going to, getting the groceries. Like a lot of time waste is eliminated. And I find that my clients are like, it balances. If you go out to sushi one night, one
yeah,
night in the week, like it already covers it. So I think, yeah, I like it when people realize like, wow, and it has a really positive impact as well. So,
yeah, yeah. The food waste thing for sure. I'm always throwing away vegetables that go bad in the bottom of my
oh,
fridge. So,
so ambitious. You're like, I can do this. I'm
yeah,
gonna make
I'm like,
all of them.
oh, they look so beautiful and crunchy and fresh, and a week later they don't, and they're still there. So,
Yeah,
prep your food.
for sure, for sure.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to transition into talking about some of your personal journey with your food. You had mentioned to me before we started talking that you've had your own experience with emotional eating and kind of finding out what your own triggers are for that. And I know this
Mhm.
is what my viewers are interested in hearing about because so many of them are on their own journey with whether it's emotional eating or eating disorder or something with food that's just not the ideal relationship with food or their body. And I would love to hear your story and how that really plays into your relationship with food now.
Yeah, I was in a relationship that was really not um, healthy for me. And I was too afraid to look at um, the fact that I needed to leave. Um, and so I stayed in it for, a couple years once I figured that out. And the eating directly tied to me not doing what I knew I needed to do. It was a big part of, um, kind of at the same time as like suppressing the knowledge that I needed to take action. The food was like also part of the suppressing. Um, I probably gained like 30 pounds at the time. For me, it was to the point where new clothes and those kinds of things, but it felt just completely out of control. Like I was just, I remember sitting there going like, I don't even want to eat this, but I'm going to.
Mhm.
And you're like, what is happening? How are things so out of control? And that period in my life, um, the lesson for me, and I've had to learn this lesson over and over again since
Mhm.
then, but the lesson for me was truly to listen to my intuition. And there's so many more ways that I'm aware of now to encourage me to listen to my intuition and to have the strength to take those steps. At the time, I didn't have a lot of tools. And I also had isolated myself because of the
Mhm.
relationship. And so I didn't have a lot of support around me either. Um, and and so now those, I was also at the time getting really bad headaches. And so between the headache and that style of eating, those are two um, factors that if I experience it in any way, I immediately am like, "Ooh, what is going on?" And it helps me in my current life. So it's turned into a really positive thing because now I am lucky enough to have signs that I recognize, and that I have followed into the dark hole that I really don't want to go there again. So it's like I recognize and they make me like pause because I'm like, whoa, this could be this could be something, like this could take me somewhere that I'm really not trying to go.
Yeah.
And I got to look at it. And along with the tools that I have and or developed over time, it's um it's become a really positive part of my life. And
Mm.
I think it's just such a beautiful thing to take something that was really hard and kind of pull out the lessons and the things to help serve you in the next chapter and the next chapter. um, and
Absolutely.
that's what that was for me, because that was probably in my early to mid 20s. And um, you know it's still it's it's still an important piece to me becoming the best person I can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, such a common story that I hear. Food is one of those ways that people get to check out or numb out from an experience they don't want to be in, whether it's a relationship or memories or something they're avoiding having to, interact in, whether it's a
Mhm.
conversation or something. So I think that's really, horrible you had to go through it, but great that, you did learn how it impacts you and how you can keep, aware of yourself moving forward. I think that's the
Yeah.
best thing that can happen is exactly how you said.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a gift now, which is, I would never
Right?
have
Isn't that
thought
weird?
that that was possible, but because it was so hard. But it is, it's a gift now. And it keeps me feeling and being the best I can be, which is so crazy cool.
Right. Right. Also, you mentioned the social isolation, which is also so common with any sort of disordered eating, because usually someone's going through something. That's why it pops up. So there is, social support is so big in healing and taking care of yourself, is just having people who are there, with you, supporting you. It's important.
Encouraging. Yeah, for sure. Cause yeah, now it's like my life and the people in my life. If anything, if if I'm in another relationship like that, or something that starts isolating me again, that's another like bing, 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 like something's wrong. My
Yes.
loved ones aren't as close to me, and I, interact with not all of them, but with them on a daily basis in different ways, and it's just a huge important part of my life. So.
Awesome. You also mentioned that you have a lot of great tools now that you pull out when you're noticing these symptoms coming up. Do you mind sharing with the viewers what those are?
Yeah, sure. I mean, a lot of them are pretty uh, common tools that we hear about. Like meditation is so big,
Mhm.
and I journal a lot, and I definitely focus on the positive. So I really, especially in those times when I'm having a hard time, I in the morning and the evening will write a list of things that I'm grateful for. And
Mm.
not only that, it's not just like, oh, I'm grateful for this and grateful for that. I sit there and I'm like, what am I truly feeling grateful for right now? And I think that there's something really important that happens when you connect it with emotion,
Yes.
you know, because I can think about just a long list of things that I'm
Mhm.
grateful for, but if you connect it with emotion, then you're actually feeling that gratitude, and that's what ripples through you. So, and I do, I wake up and I do a little yoga video on a daily basis, and so those types of things. I hike a lot, and that has become um, really important personal time for me. I'm not only in nature, usually I'm alone. And so something about moving, whether it's bicycling, on a treadmill, or whatever, but I think connecting the movement with the breath,
Mhm.
my mind I can solve every problem.
Yeah.
Like I'm always like, oh, I got to write this down. Like that was a golden one, Um, so uh my hiking is key. It's been raining the last couple weeks, and I was telling a client of mine, I'm like, she has this brand new puppy, and I'm like,
Mm.
I feel like your puppy right now. Like
Yeah.
I just need
Correct.
to get outside and get back to my like, oh, can I just please like hike? It's so
Mm.
important. Um, and I make those practices daily, and I don't actually get those signs anymore because I've started incorporating the tools. It's no longer like, ooh, I feel a trigger, I better start doing these supportive things. I've figured out that it's like,
You can
do
prevent
these
them.
supportive things on a daily basis, and those triggers, you know, how don't creep up on me because I'm much more in tune and
Awesome.
willing to look and ask myself and question, where I'm at. Yeah, so those are my tools.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That exceeded what I was hoping you were going to say. I mean, your movement sounded so, mindful and intuitive and joyful, that, you're doing it as a way to connect with yourself rather than, just slogging away at something. And I never had thought, everyone talks about gratitude journaling, and I've tried it
Sure.
before, and it was like, I'm grateful I have a house over my head. I'm grateful that I have food in my, like, it was just very like bullet point. Like, that's how I always,
Right.
I'm a horrible journaler, and I tell everyone, you should journal. It's so good. And I'm terrible at it. But I like that you were like, it needs to come from that place of emotion. And I think if I
Yeah.
had been doing that, I probably would have A, stuck with it, and B, actually
Yeah.
out of it.
I think our emotions are really they motivate us, they move us, they're emotions, like they they make things, concepts, real in our core, and they cause us to take action, and so anytime I'm trying to make a change in my life, I try to anchor it in a feeling of excitement, or, like anchor it in an emotion so that you can keep tapping into that feeling and keep moving forward with it,
That's so cool.
So the feeling of gratitude, and as you practice it more and more, I feel like my heart just swells when I'm doing my journal in the morning, because it's just like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing that I have, like, even my cat, she's lived for 20 years and we've been together the whole time. That's
Mm.
amazing,
Aw.
and so I kind of get into that space.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so practical side of things. What happens when you're like in a big rush in the morning? Because I'm sure not every day you have the luxury to do your yoga and your journaling and hike and
Right.
all the things.
Right. And so I do generally set my alarm a little bit earlier so that I can make sure to fit it in, because the beauty of it is that it doesn't take very long.
Hmm.
It's like, if I have 10 minutes, I can definitely do my journal. And I really like doing yoga videos. And so I will just pick a 5-minute yoga video,
Okay.
5 minutes instead of, 15, 20, whatever I can do in a different morning. The 5 minutes, it still checks me in. It still stretches me out. I mean, I stand all day and I kind of hunch and I'm cooking, so it's like really important
Yeah.
to like do different positions, and stretch out my legs a little bit. So I'll just adjust it to make it work,
Right.
which I'm not rigid about it. I just like work with what I can and what I've got.
That's great. Yeah, I think that the flexibility is so important. And yeah, I love that you still find a way to fit it in, because I'm just thinking of like my crazy schedule. Like, I'm not getting up until I have to. Like, if
Right.
it's starting, I feel like, especially now having a baby in my life, like a lot of my self care gets thrown out the window. Maybe, and I'm trying to make the end of the day right before I go to bed be my self care time, because
Yeah.
mornings are, I never know what's going to happen. I don't know what time she's going to wake up. I don't know, if I have to be somewhere early. So I'm been really focusing on trying to make my bedtime routine my self care. So you can fit it in wherever it fits in your day. I love it. I mean, I want it to be mornings because I think that sets your day up for success, but you do
Mhm.
it when you
But
can.
I think in the evening, it's got its own special quality,
Mhm.
where in the evening, you've just had a whole day, so you can reflect on what's happened. You can be grateful for whatever you experience. You can, and I honestly think ideally you do one in the morning and in the evening.
That would be
And
lovely.
so because there's importance to both, and
Mm.
I think that um it yeah. I think it's great, as it doesn't even matter where it goes,
Yeah.
It's just to fit it in there.
Mhm. I just know that my body, my being is happier when I can do things in the
Ah,
morning, especially movement,
yeah.
and alone time. But it's just, this is not that time in my life.
Yeah,
So if you
right.
can, then that's all you can do.
Yeah, yeah, this is a rare time in my life right now. And so, it doesn't always look like this.
Yeah.
No.
But you're setting that foundation, which is amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it's what I want, so it's really exciting for it to be, like, in going in this direction, because
Mhm.
it's been years of kind of grinding restaurant life, restaurant schedule. It's not easy,
Yes.
and it's
Can
very
imagine.
demanding, long hours, and I'm just kind of, even though it's been a year and a half since I've been in one, I'm still like, taking the breath. And sometimes on weekends I'm like, wow, I have the weekend off. Or a holiday where I normally
Yeah.
would work. So, it's
Yeah.
neat.
So
Yeah.
good. Well, in wrapping up, is there any final thoughts or tips that you'd like to leave with the viewers?
Um, Yeah, I would. I'd encourage everyone um, to experiment and to have fun with food. And I know, sometimes it's really hard to look online for your inspiration because there's a lot out there.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's easier to just like look in your fridge and be like, okay, do I want to saute it, boil it, steam it, roast it? I don't actually know. Like, let's just try, And the more you cook, the better you get. And it is all about experimenting. It's kind of like you get to be your own mad scientist. And so I'm hoping to offer some series of helping people to be mad scientists in their kitchen. But I would encourage experimenting, start with your favorite foods and go from there. And to remember that it's an act of love and you're taking care of yourself and your loved ones by doing it.
Mm, that's so perfect. Thank you so much, Roxanne. I'm excited to get this video out to everyone. This has been such a wonderful talk, and I love this self-care way that we went with it.
Woven in there.
It's so perfect. This is exactly what I was. This is better than I hoped for with the conversation. I had no idea what to
Yay.
talk to a personal chef about. It's so cool.
Well, I love it. These conversations light me up and get me all excited all over again about what I'm doing. And I really love connecting with you. And thank you for offering and inviting me to come on here and kind of do this for my first time.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And everyone, I hope that you will check out what Roxanne is putting together, especially as she gets that membership site up, and go have fun with food and take care of yourself. It's
Yeah.
totally doable no matter how little time you have to fit it in. So
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you all. And I will see you next week.